Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. So आज से we'll be starting a new series called Let's Talk About It, and this is episode 1 of Let's Talk About It, and today we'll be talking about setting boundaries. But before we get right into it, I just want to give you a brief about this series, okay? So basically, in this series I'll be addressing very important concerns, not concerns but like questions that we as young adults have, but we don't quite have the answer to them. So this is my take on some of the most important things that we as teenagers or young adults must know. So with that being said, let's get into it. ओके तो आज का टॉपिक जिस पे मुझे बात करनी है, एंड आई कैन नॉट टॉक अबाउट दिस इनफ, ओके, आई लव टॉकिंग अबाउट दिस, इट्स वन ऑफ माई फेवरेट टॉपिक्स. It's setting boundaries, right? So I'll be taking you through what it means to set boundaries, why should you do it, and how should you do it, right? So let's get into it. और सबसे पहली बात, boundaries set करने का मतलब क्या होता है? Like, what do I mean when I say that no, I'm setting a boundary here, I cannot take more than this? Okay, let me explain it in a very layman's language, right? Setting a boundary is like drawing a line. So it's like basically you draw a line and you expect somebody to stay out of it, right? So if they cross over that line and try to sort of get you to do something, you feel angry, you feel hurt, you feel violated even, right? So basically setting boundaries means drawing a line to how much you can absorb of somebody's energy and how much you can take, right? That is basically all it means to be setting boundaries. Now, setting boundaries is often seen as an act that is very selfish या फिर बहुत ज़्यादा, people don't really appreciate it, especially in Indian culture, and that needs to change, because trust me, you cannot be everybody's emotional punching bag, right? You need to have a limit to how much you can absorb of other people. That is why setting boundaries is so important. Now that we have the answer to what it means and why should you do it, again, why should you do it? Because you have self-respect, and because, like I said, there's a limit to how much you can absorb. Now comes the important part, how should you do it? Okay, so first of all, talking about boundaries in friendships, right? I'll give you an example, okay? You go out with your friends, right? You want to go out with your friends, or you want to talk to your friends, but you've noticed that you are the only person who calls first, who texts first, who makes all the plans, who puts down all the deposits, who basically you are the friend who does all the planning and other people just show up. Now, this might seem like a very normal situation to you, but it's not. I'll tell you why. Because in the entire friend group, let's say there are 3 people in the friend group, okay, you are the only one who's putting in all of the emotional work, you're the only one who's actively making an effort to maintain the friendship and to keep the trio together. But actual healthy friendships don't work like that, and you know that, okay? तो अगर आपको ये सारी चीज़ें पता है और आपने ये एक्सेप्ट कर लिया है कि ये जो चीज़ है वो अच्छी नहीं हो रही है और मुझे उसको चेंज करने की ज़रूरत है, तो अभी क्या करोगे आप? विल यू अलाउ इट टू कीप हैपनिंग? विल यू जस्ट बी लाइक हाँ ठीक है, जाने दो, दोस्ती है, और विल यू पुट अ स्टॉप टू इट? नाउ अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल माइट लेट इट स्लाइड once, twice, thrice, but if you don't say anything and you keep letting this happen to you, it basically builds resentment and it makes you feel like you are the only one who's carrying all the load, which is not untrue. So what should you do in this situation? What should you do when you feel like your boundaries are being crossed or you are not being respected? आपको क्या करना चाहिए? आपको सामने वाले को कम्युनिकेट करना चाहिए अच्छे से, प्यार से. Now let's come back to a situation. What I would do in this situation is, एक बार मैं पूरे ग्रुप में एक टेक्स्ट डालती कि I don't feel that this is the right dynamic for our group and I should not be the only one who's doing all of the work in the group, right? And अगर वो लोग मेरी बात मानते हैं और acknowledge करते हैं कि हाँ कुछ गलत हो रहा है and they actively make an effort to change it, then yeah it's fine. लेकिन अगर, and ऐसा ही होता है most cases में, they just ignore you, they dismiss you, they don't give a shit about your feelings, then I think it's time to make new friends. Yeah, it's as simple as that, and this is what having a boundary means. Your boundary in this situation was that you will not be the only one who's putting in all the emotional effort, and you will not be the only one who's carrying all the load of the friendship. But बहुत आपके बोलने के बाद भी अगर पूरी फ्रेंडशिप का डायनामिक चेंज नहीं हुआ, so then it's a deal breaker. That's as simple as that. So in friendships, basically the best way to set boundaries is to communicate them very clearly in the start, and if they are respected, well and good. If they are not respected, you walk away. Simple. I know that it might feel a little harsh, but trust me, people will not value you if you keep showing up for them even if they don't show up for you. So better that you remove yourself from the situation and find better friends. Okay, so that was about friendships. Now moving on to family. अभी कुछ लोग बोलेंगे कि फैमिली के साथ बाउंड्रीज कैसे सेट कर सकते हैं या क्यों करनी चाहिए. See, everybody loves your family and your family loves you too. But sometimes it gets, you don't like how a certain situation is unfolding and you want to do something about it. So as an individual person of your own, you have full rights to actually acknowledge that something is wrong and that you need to fix it. तो फैमिली के साथ बाउंड्रीज होना इसीलिए ज़रूरी है क्योंकि अगर नहीं होंगे तो you will become everybody's unpaid punching bag and you will just start hating yourself and other people. And trust me, that gets very bad. It does not make you feel good at all. So better than that, communicate your boundaries, communicate your needs and whatever problems that you have. I'll give you an example. You and your mom, you fight about a test, right? You don't score very less marks and your mom says, not very nice things to you. So in the moment, maybe you felt bad. Of course you felt bad. And that your worth was reduced to a grade, right? So what you do the next time is basically, when she's calmer or when things are better, you go and you talk to her about it and you tell her that, hey, this is not okay and I do not appreciate this behavior at all, right? Make it respectful but make it clear. What this does is that it makes people automatically respect you and it makes them act in a way that is acceptable to you, which is very, very, very important. So all in all, I like to say that in conclusion, carrying other people's emotional weight is not your responsibility and you are not a punching bag. So if you feel that a situation is unfair or something is not right, please make sure that you communicate your boundaries to the other person, and if they don't respect your boundaries, just walk away. Honestly, that's the best approach towards it. And with that, I'd like to end this episode 1. Let me know what you think about it in the comments, and if you resonated with it and you felt like this was something worth your while, then make sure to hit the follow button.